I don't know about any of you, but I've been really dying for a good shooter lately. Shadow Warrior 3 was fun for a day or two. I've done everything in Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. Hell, I even played it high off magic mushrooms. Well, actually that's a lie. I was stuck on the character select screen for about 4 hours while I chatted with my toilet on why he keeps throwing up human feces onto my floor. And then that kind of led into a really intense conversation on his thoughts and feelings of Master Chief's ass being exposed to the world like some cheap Playgirl magazine cover art. I play more Doom Eternal than your average basehead protecting themselves from the invisible wolves that are trying to steal his thoughts. Basically what I'm trying to say is, while my library of first-person shooters is far from lacking, I've hit such a low, I was actually forced to download and even play Vanguard. Luckily, it only took a game for me to realize I'd much rather watch The Last of Us 2's prison scene on loop for 10 hours while each thrust is synchronized perfectly with Old Town Road playing in the background, than play this absolute dog shit of a game. So needless to say, you can only imagine my excitement when I was sent a little game by the name of Forgivemefather, developed by Byte Barrel and published by 1C Entertainment. And before you say anything, no, it's not an abuse sim like it sounds. Even though the name, a brief description of the game, the fact that it incorporates a priest and the publisher's name, and even the dev's name can imply a very wild game theory, PR manager of 1C Entertainment was very clear that I was not to share any of my fuck game theories, and nothing I said was remotely close to being right. So if not an abuse sim, what is Forgivemefather? Well, it's the latest lineup of endless boomer shooters. The last time I actually covered a boomer shooter was Dread Templar, and it was also published by 1C Entertainment. And in that video, while I admitted Dread Templar was fun and something I'd recommend picking up, is yes, a lot of boomer shooters are fun, but it seems like not too many boomer shooters are really doing much to separate themselves from the crowd, with the exception of a few small tweaks in gameplay, and the most drastic deviation of all of them being the art style. I know how contradictory it's going to sound for me to then say Forgivemefather's art design is actually what immediately got my attention. As a matter of fact, its comic book art style was so unique, it's almost the sole reason I agreed to getting the code. I know, I'm not perfect. How a game looks is something I should stop grabbing games off of. It's why I actually bought the last of the waifus, but that game's realistic jiggle physics only went into her chest and nothing into her ass. Imagine a third-person shooter with absolutely zero jump in that dump truck. But besides the beautiful art style and the soundtrack that slaps harder than a Naughty Nuts punishment stick is this game's combat and sound design. Actually, let me backtrack a little bit. The game consists of two different characters you can choose from. I would love to explain to you the story of what's going on, but the voice acting of the narrator and both protagonists, the journalist and the priest, they're fucking horrible.
Sparks! Ah, there it goes. Take this! That's a sick pump action. Dangerously close to being uncomfortable to hold, though.
You can take any out of context audio clip from literally anything, insert it, and you have the same amount of questions and moments of head shaking than if you just heard what these two people said. And it's sad that I also, for the life of me, can't figure out what the hell the story is. I feel as if a dev that puts in enough effort to create some kind of cutscene should make you want to care enough to comprehend what's going on or what's at stake, but it doesn't. It's also, I don't know, I don't want to use the old tried and true Carmack quote here, but it's really hard not to when the devs practically slap it in your lap with a wide-eyed smirk. So, voice acting could be better, narrator could be better, the story is as coherent, easy to follow as trying to explain why your wife's boyfriend runs your household. Luckily, the soundtrack, weapon sounds, and gunplay itself is what really saves it here. The game gives you a total of 8 weapons. Each weapon is upgradable, and in some cases, you can completely alter the way its properties are. Take this double-barreled shotgun, for instance. It went from what you use to put down Old Yeller to what you should use to take out your giant mistake baby monster from Resident Evil. Looks badass, looks menacing, but it doesn't pack the same punch. In this example, you're trading off damage for bullets that have the ability to ricochet, so maybe not the best example here, but a lot of the weapons that turn all alien looking just suck ass compared to what they were prior. The other problem is when you alter the weapons, you'll often have 2 weapons now take from the same ammo pool. And if you're playing on a harder difficulty where ammo pickups are even more seldom, and you made the wise choice to alter a weapon which in turn affects a certain ammo type even more, then you realize once you've chosen a path for your weapon you can't go back, you're pretty much fucked there. So it'd be nice if they up the damage and all the alien looking shit, or they change some of these weapons and its balance around it to make it less of a sim for rednecks watching their ammo reserves and how many bullets they got left to protect their one prized cousin. Aside from the weapons, my other biggest complaint has to do with this game's checkpoint system. As you play throughout the levels, which are pretty short, you'll come across this man that looks like your average Los Angeles resident. You'll walk up to them, you save your game, and if you die, 90% of my experience with this game has showed me that you are in fact supposed to respawn with him, obviously provided that you save. The other 10% for some reason had me restart the entire level. It randomly happens, I don't know what exactly triggers it, but it'd be greatly appreciated if the folks over at Bite Barrel looked into this problem, as I'm starting to know what it's like to be in an abusive relationship and constantly have to check in. Forgivemefather has definitely helped out with that FPS itch. I also haven't mentioned one of its biggest selling points, that being the madness meter. As you inflict more damage on your enemies, characters slowly start to go insane, making you more deadly and more resilient to enemy attacks. Becoming mad also removes the color, making this game turn black and white and red, which I personally really like. I mean, sure, at times it's kind of hard to see, but when the game looks this glorious and you have a blood-fueled hard-on, I mean, who the fuck cares about what you can and can't see? I also want to say that in later fights, when things start to get much more hectic and you start incorporating your abilities to slow down time, freeze enemies in place, or even create a small blast around you, all helpful moves in the right situation, putting less of a strain on your ammo reserves and rewarding smart move utilization. I think once I started incorporating these moves, the game actually became much more enjoyable. I think my first time around, I was relying way too much on the guns and not so much trying to be quick and smart with where I was when I was using this move or that move or even proper enemy prioritization. But for 20 bucks and the fact that it's fully released plus has an endless mode, I'd recommend picking this game up. If they end up addressing my two criticisms, maybe tweak some of the XP progression as well, since later in the game it becomes much more of a grind fest, it'd be an absolute steal. But let me know what you guys think. Have you guys played Forgivemefather? Have you heard anything about it? You know, I've been saying this for the last year or so. We're starting to see indie games like this start to make their way over to consoles, and I personally hope this game makes it over. It's hard to say what really is going to end up making that or not, because it sounds like, you know, you never really know because it's behind the scenes, but it sounds like when you're making video games trying to get it onto a platform like Microsoft or Sony, you gotta pay an additional fee, and sometimes those fees are way too high for the indie devs. At least that's my understanding. I could be completely wrong here. I'm not a game developer. I don't know anything like that behind the scenes, but with this year, last year, and really everything that was going on with the entire pandemic, I love seeing smaller game studios start making games that are actually good. You know, they're not prioritizing graphics over the actual gameplay. And that's stuff that I'm always getting behind, and that's why I choose to share games like Forgivemefather, Dread Templar, Proteus, Hades, and so on. But anyways, like always guys, my name is Cynic. Thank you all so much for watching. Let's talk about this game in the comment section, or really, what is your favorite indie game at your current moment? Or even if you're playing on PC, what would you love to see be brought over to console? But until next time, I'll see you all later.